Have you ever heard a story that just, like, makes you believe in good in the world? Pure, unadulterated goodness. We're diving into one of those today.
Okay.
The story of Moo Daeng,
Hey.
a dog in Thailand.
Yeah, his story really captured hearts around the world.
It went viral and then took a royal turn.
I think what makes his journey so compelling is how it brings together themes of loyalty, compassion, and the power of social media.
So, okay, let's set the scene.
Right.
Moo Daeng's owner was a homeless man who sadly passed away in November 2024.
Oh, wow.
But Moo Daeng continued to wait for him outside a 7-Eleven in Korat,
Hmm.
which is in the Nakhon Ratchasima province of Thailand.
It's a heartbreaking image, isn't it? Day after day, Moo Daeng just stayed in their usual spot.
Yeah.
Refusing to leave, he was even given the nickname Hachiko of Korat, referencing the famous Japanese dog known for his unwavering devotion.
Hachiko waited for 9 years.
Wow.
Do you think there's something about these public spaces, the 7-Eleven for Moo Daeng, the train station for Hachiko, that makes their grief even more poignant?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they're making a statement, forcing us to confront the depth of their loss.
Right.
These dogs challenge us to really see animals not just as companions, but as beings with complex emotions.
And the community in Korat definitely saw Moo Daeng.
Yeah, they did.
They rallied around him, bringing him food, blankets, even a stuffed toy.
And then a local photographer named Mo started sharing photos of Moo Daeng on Facebook. That's when things really took off.
Because that's how Princess Siripachudaborn, the niece of the King of Thailand, first learned about him.
Exactly. The princess, who is a well-known animal welfare advocate, saw those photos and a video of the community raising funds for Moo Daeng's care.
Oh, wow.
She was so moved, she decided to step in.
And on January 23rd, 2025, she officially announced that she was adopting Moo Daeng.
That's incredible.
What was the public reaction like?
People were ecstatic, of course. There's something about a princess rescues dog story that captures the imagination. But the princess was very clear that this wasn't just about giving Moo Daeng a comfortable life. She publicly stated that he was suffering from severe depression after the loss of his owner.
So she was acknowledging his grief, which is an interesting point. Do you think we as a society truly grasp the depth of animal emotions?
That's a question worth considering.
Yeah.
The princess's words were very powerful. While humans are able to hide their pain and appear normal on the outside, dogs are pure. They show exactly how they feel. And in doing so, she brought the issue of animal mental health into the spotlight.
Which isn't something you often hear discussed.
No, it's not.
So she adopts Moo Daeng, but she doesn't just whisk him off to the palace, right?
Right. She wanted to make sure his transition was as smooth as possible.
Okay.
She received permission from both the 7-Eleven owners and local authorities before adopting him. Then Moo Daeng was taken to Kasetsart University Veterinary Hospital.
For a checkup.
Yes. He underwent health checks, quarantine, and acclimatization before moving to his new home at the princess's residence in Chiang Mai.
Okay, hold on. What exactly does acclimatization mean in this context?
It's a process that helps animals adjust to a new environment.
Okay.
Imagine being taken from a familiar street corner to a royal residence.
Right.
So they gradually introduce the animal to new sights, sounds, smells, all the things that make up their surroundings to minimize stress.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So Moo Daeng goes through this acclimatization period, and then he's off to live with the princess.
It is quite the fairy tale ending, but as we'll see, there's so much more to this story than a simple rescue.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a bit of a fairy tale, isn't it? And speaking of fairy tales, this whole Hachiko of Korat nickname, is there something more to that comparison?
It's more than just a cute nickname. The reference to Hachiko is incredibly powerful, especially in the context of Japanese culture.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah.
I know the basic story of Hachiko, but why is he such a significant figure in Japan?
Hachiko's story is so deeply embedded in Japanese culture. He represents unwavering loyalty, devotion, and the enduring bond between humans and animals. His statue at the Shibuya train station is a national landmark, a symbol of those very values.
So by calling Moo Daeng the Hachiko of Korat, people were drawing a direct parallel to that profound loyalty, elevating Moo Daeng's story to something more universal.
Exactly. It connects Moo Daeng to this larger narrative about the human-animal bond. It's a story that transcends cultural boundaries, resonating with people worldwide.
And it's interesting that both Hachiko and Moo Daeng were waiting in very public places. I mean, Hachiko at the train station, one of the busiest places imaginable.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a reason for that?
It's an interesting observation. Perhaps it's about visibility.
Yeah.
By waiting in these public spaces, they're forcing us to confront their loss, their loyalty.
Hmm.
It's a very public display of grief, and it challenges our assumptions about animal emotions.
And it makes you wonder about the ethical implications, too. You've got this dog, clearly grieving, thrust into the spotlight. It made me think about Princess Siripa's decision to share updates about Moo Daeng. Was that the right thing to do? Could there be a downside to that kind of exposure for an animal in a vulnerable state?
That's a great question, and it raises a lot of important points about how we approach animal welfare, especially when it involves public figures.
Right.
On one hand, the princess's transparency allows people to connect with Moo Daeng's story, fostering empathy and awareness.
Right.
But it also raises questions about privacy and exploitation.
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line?
Especially with social media, everyone have an opinion, and things
Yeah.
can get very intense very quickly.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if there were any negative reactions or concerns raised when the princess adopted Moo Daeng.
There were certainly different perspectives. Some questioned whether the princess, with her busy schedule and royal duties, could truly provide the care Moo Daeng needed.
Hmm.
Others worried he might become a novelty pet, losing his identity in the process.
And what about the community in Korat? Did they feel like they were losing their dog?
There was definitely a sense of attachment there.
Right.
After all, they had rallied around him, cared for him. But ultimately, most people seemed happy that Moo Daeng was going to a loving home where his emotional needs would be prioritized.
And that's where Princess Siriv's actions really stand out, isn't it? Her focus on Moo Daeng's mental well-being.
Absolutely. By publicly acknowledging his depression, she challenged the way we often view animals. Her actions suggest a shift in thinking, a recognition that their emotional lives are just as important as their physical well-being.
It's interesting to think about the broader impact of her actions, too. This wasn't just about one dog. It sparked a larger conversation about animal welfare in Thailand.
It did. People started talking more openly about animal grief, about responsible pet ownership. The princess's actions, combined with the power of social media, amplified those conversations on a global scale.
It's amazing how a simple story about a dog can have such a ripple effect.
It is. And it speaks to our inherent connection to these stories. We see ourselves in them, we learn from them, and we're inspired to act.
So what can we, the listeners, take away from Moo Daeng's journey? What makes his story so resonant?
I think it reminds us of the power of compassion. And it encourages us to look beyond the surface, to recognize the emotional depth of the animals in our lives.
It also highlights the incredible impact communities can have when they come together to care for those in need. Whether it's a dog waiting on a street corner or a neighbor going through a tough time, our actions, no matter how small, can make a world of difference. It's a powerful reminder that we all have that ability, to create positive change. And sometimes those changes start in the most unexpected places.
Exactly. Think about it. We have Moo Daeng, a stray dog living on the streets of Korat, and then you have Princess Sirba, a member of the Thai royal family. Their lives intersect, and it creates this incredible ripple effect felt around the world.
Yeah, it's like something out of a movie. You can't help but be touched by the humanity of it all.
It really does challenge our preconceptions about who can make a difference. It reminds us that compassion can bridge any divide.
And it all started with those everyday acts of kindness. The people in Korat who brought Moo Daeng food and water, the photographer who shared his story, they all played a part.
Yeah,
It shows that you don't need a royal title to have an impact.
absolutely. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, creates a ripple, and those ripples can spread far and wide.
This whole story has left me feeling incredibly hopeful. It's a testament to the power of compassion, the strength of the human-animal bond, and the potential for social media to be a force for good.
It is a powerful story. And as we wrap up our deep dive into Moo Daeng's journey, I'm curious what resonated most deeply with you.
For me, it's the reminder that love and loyalty can truly transcend any barrier, whether it's between humans and animals, or even between cultures. It's a story that warms the heart and inspires us all to be a little bit kinder, a little bit more empathetic.
Beautifully said. And perhaps it prompts us to take a look around our own communities to see where we can extend a helping hand, where we can be advocates for those who need it most.
So as we sign off, I'd love to hear from you. What other stories of unexpected kindness towards animals have you encountered? Share your stories. Keep the conversation going. And let's all continue to make the world a better place for every living being.